Did you do it?
It's either a police lineup or a very interesting choice for boy bands.
No direction.
Yeah. It's like that we call cop this.
Yes, exactly. Let's go for the latter. Yes.
Well, guys, kicking off, I guess, with the first and most obvious question. You're all here because you're involved in the largest film and entertainment franchise in the planet. What is it about Star Wars that each of you love so much, and how do you feel about being at least a small part of that amazing legacy?
Who's first?
Do you go that way?
I'm Rufus. I play the small but crucial role of Lieutenant Casino in Rogue One. I was born in '74, so when A New Hope came out, I was 3, and I've watched all the movies all the way through my life. What I love most about being in it, and what I think is so great about what Lucasfilm does, is to give us all the actors anyway, character names, backstories, histories, and we're very much part of the canon. When I started telling friends that I was in Star Wars Rogue One, they were like, oh, that's the one that takes place just before New Hope. That means you're part of the canon. That means you're part of the story. And forever, you will be the guy that said that thing to that other guy, and that led to this, and that meant the Death Star plans got off, you know. And so you become knitted into a very, very complex fabric of the Star Wars history. And that's very exciting for anyone. Because now I look back at my 3-year-old self and think, wow, guess what? In 40 years' time, you're going to be the guy that does this, that does that, that leads to this and that. So, you know, it's fun being part of that story.
I think I might be the little bit of the baby of the group, but I was sort of introduced. I fell in love with them from the prequels, and I'm one of the creature performers from Episode 7 and Rogue One. So I come from a different angle. It's like being able to be an alien. I've never professionally been paid to play a human being, so I think they're trying to tell me something. But being an alien is incredible, because within each of those movies, I got to do about 4 or 5 different aliens. And so you're just constantly jumping into new creatures, new characters, new challenges physically as well. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride for Force Awakens and Rogue One as well, being a creature performer.
So my name's Paul Kasey, and I was very, very lucky to be invited onto Force Awakens and obviously onto Rogue One. My background is sort of movement and creatures, and I've done quite a bit of it over the years. So for me to carry on doing what I do and enjoy so much for Lucasfilm and for Disney was just a complete joy. To work at this level with the performers and the puppeteers and the crew and everybody is just a complete joy for me. And I don't want it to end. But I'm also the sort of creature movement choreographer on the films as well, so I get to work with the performers and the puppeteers to create what we see in the film. So I get sort of like a double whammy, really. I get to work with lots of people and help create some amazing scenes, and then also get to wear some amazing stuff and play some amazing creatures, like Admiral Raddus in Rogue One, which was cool.
I'm Brian Herring, and I am the lead puppeteer for BB-8 in The Force Awakens, and I worked on various characters in Rogue One. I was that kid in 1977 that had the curtains and the toys and all the stuff, and I had a school report that said that Brian's obsession with Star Wars will lead him nowhere. I was really lucky because I was on The Force Awakens for 16 months. As the puppetry consultant, and I got to find a bunch of, help find the performers and then work out how a lot of the puppets were going to work along with Paul. And we were so lucky with myself and Dave Chapman and Matt Denton and Josh Lee. We got to kind of create BB-8 as a character, and then that has carried on. And so for me, to get involved with it, my 7-year-old self, would wet himself on a very daily basis. And I do remember saying to Dave about halfway through The Force Awakens, living the dream is a really overused phrase, but I did say to Dave, if I wake up and this has been a dream, I'm going to be angry for weeks. Luckily, it's still going on, this dream. It's good. It's good.
My name's Matt Stirling. I play Sergeant Calfor, or Private Calfor, in Rogue One, and I did Force Awakens as well. I'm a bit of a different side to these guys because I'm a stunt performer as well. so I chuck myself around and get blown up for your entertainment. And my careers officer said to me, you know, why don't you get a proper job? And here I am talking to you guys now about Star Wars. It was a dream. It was a dream come true to do Star Wars because it's such a big franchise. I love the sort of, the adventures. I love the Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, when I saw the Raiders of the Lost Ark, I went around the high street with a hat and a whip. I was 24, but for me, Star Wars is a massive, it's a massive franchise, but it's a great story that everybody loves. There's not many people that don't really like Star Wars, and for me, it was a dream come true to be in it in any form or capacity, and working with all these guys as well. It's a weird adventure, and it is an adventure on set because you don't know what's happening day to day. So there you go.
What's your method of acting?
Oh, method of acting.
Wow.
I think of the money. Sorry, can I just say that out loud? I'm really sorry, I didn't mean that. It's quite hard, the method of acting, because sometimes you don't know a strange story. I don't know much about the franchise with regards to the books. There's a Star Wars book that's come out that's got all the characters. Well, I didn't really know about my character until the book came out, and it said in it that I'm deaf. Well, I didn't actually know that when we made the film, because in theory, when everybody would have got off the ship, I'd have stayed on there because I wouldn't have heard them leaving. But it's a very strange. They kind of add these things in afterwards, but you get given a character and you try and portray it in the way that you see it, and until you get told otherwise. I mean, it's different for obviously you guys because they've got masks and God knows what on from BB-8.
Yeah, for things like BB-8, you have to look at the way the puppet would work within the real world, and you have to work out, because it's a half a ball on a ball body, so you have to work out how you can make that look happy or look sad and that kind of thing. And so between myself and Dave Chapman, the other puppeteer, we come up with a whole vocabulary of movement on how he could look happy or sad or go downstairs. So then we tend to watch everything we do on a TV monitor as we do it, so we can see how it looks. So you do approach every character like an actor would. So is it happy? Is it sad? How what the emotion it would have? Even though it's a robot, you have to give it human emotions. So that's the way we go at that, and we get a couple of weeks to rehearse that, and then just go, and you kind of have to work on the fly because these things do film very, very fast.
So, I'll talk about Admiral Raddus. So, wearing a full animatronic head with Admiral Raddus, I had no vision. But luckily, the puppeteer who was puppeteering me, Patrick Comerford, he would have a microphone and I'd have an earpiece. So, because when it's all working and it's all, singing and dancing, as it were, I can't hear anything either. So if a note has to come via, from the directors, or if Patrick is wanting to sort of correct my eye line, it comes into my ear. So it is, just for this one character, when you think of the levels that are required to actually make this work, there's quite a lot, really. There's quite a lot involved in it, in that sense, and also what you're dealing with on the inside. But nevertheless, on the inside, I am Admiral Raddus. So inside I'm pulling the faces and I'm grumping away and I am him, if you see what I mean. Even though Patrick Comerford would also be delivering the dialogue, of which I hear as well. But if there was a camera on the inside and you saw what I was doing, you'd laugh. Because I am doing it on the inside, and we obviously see it differently on the outside. But that's how I am, and that's how I perform, because I like to get into it and sort of feel it, and I just think it comes across better, through the suit, and it sort of looks, a little bit more realistic, really. So, yeah, that's one character. So.
Thank you.
I'm at the same as Paul because I'm a creature performer as well, so it's the same. I was quite lucky though on my first day of my first fitting for POW, played this Rebel Commando POW. And Gareth Edwards, the director, called me into the office and we got to sit down for about a half hour. And he just chatted to me about what he saw as POW and what he thought. And then we just chatted a lot about the creatures in Star Wars and how they should fit in and the ideas that he had. And he asked me for my ideas. So it was a really sort of lovely moment as for a performer like us, so that I could go away and think about that. And then I'm in the exact same situation on set. I can't see or hear anything. And with POW, I couldn't breathe, so I had to build a whole filtration system that pumped air into the head so that I could stay in there. And I had Paul's lovely sultry voice in my ear, guiding me going, run left, 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 right, right, stop, stop, stop. So I didn't get blown up or anything like that. And Matt's there every step of the way between the takes going, what are you doing to yourself?
You had to guide Cole through the sequences. You'd be like, okay, we're going to run here, there's explosion there, explosion there, explosion there, and then stunt coordinator Rob Inch would suddenly go, keep an eye on Derek, I'm not sure Derek's alright. And then just push Derek around the place, and you go, yeah, thanks guys, and he'd just be running in the general direction. So, yeah, it's funny when you see it off, sort of, not with the edits and without the camera, it's a bit sort of comical, and obviously you're hearing people shouting, get Derek! And it's a bit weird, you know, he's falling down a hole or something. So
I used Matt for my mark. Usually they call it a mark when you have to stop so that you can be in frame for a camera. And I knew Matt was there. And I knew my mark is when I ran into Matt. That was my mark. I'm just going to walk, and when I stop, that's Matt, and I've hit camera. Yeah, quite a ride.
For me, ended up filming quite a lot of dialogue, which ended up getting cut, as most of us have experienced before. I suppose the tricky thing for an actor like me is that the non-disclosure agreements that you sign when you're auditioning for Star Wars are so enormous and all-encompassing. You're not really allowed to see more than about 10 lines of dialogue at any one time. It's all printed on red paper, and your mobile phone is confiscated from while you look at it in a sealed room with 3 kind of men in suits looking at you to make sure you're not, trying to photocopy it or anything like that. And by the time you get to set, all the dialogue's changed again, and then it's changed again, and then as you're on set, they start shouting out different lines you need to say, all of which are going to be absolutely crucial. And the line that someone shouts from behind that going, say something about X-Wings dropping! So you go, X-Wings are dropping! And then, of course, that ends up the line that you end up saying 40 years later at a convention. So you never really know what you say and how it's going to be used in the movie. But yeah, it's a strange process being in a movie where the secrecy surrounding it is so intense.
I do love that part though, that you end up filming so much throughout a day for a scene, many days. And in my mind, I love watching the film at the cinema, because it's at that point that you get the realization of they chose that shot, and and how they put it together. And for me, that is just as exciting as it is for everybody else. Just to see, what they've chosen, how they've edited it. So,
As a creature performer, you usually are watching the film for the first time, because you don't ever see anything. You don't really hear anything either. So people ask you what it was like, and you're like, just really a lot of buzzing and running and sweating. And then you just watch the movie, and you're like, oh, that's what it looked like.
That's what these guys haven't really sort of got into, is what they're wearing is their animatronic machine. It's animatronic machinery that could have somewhere up to 36 servos operating the face. Now, when those go on, all you hear is zzzz until they turn them off. And then when they fire up, you get so you can only just hear the guy in your ear and the dialogue coming in the other ear. So it is just really, they're claustrophobic a lot of the time, aren't they? There's very little vision, but they are wearing heavy heads. So when you see these things like Power or Radis or Aloasti or any of those guys in ships or whatever, and those ships are on gimbals and they're getting thrown around, the net pressure on those things is I mean, the guys in the creature shop build them as light as they can, but to make them move that much, they still need to put some weight into them. So acting from inside heavy machinery is no easy feat.
We usually have full body harnesses on underneath our costume, and the full body harness is specifically made to take the weight off of our necks and off of our nose, or else the mechanics would just sit on our nose. So there's a lot of months of fittings that you go in for about 6, 7, sometimes 10 costume fittings before they even put on your film costume.
Did you guys as puppeteers find it refreshing, as in Rogue One, where there was a move back towards real puppets rather than CGI? Because we have gone down that CGI route, as in like Yoda being CGI and a puppet. What's your feelings on that?
Yeah, well, J.J. Abrams really wanted to make a sequel to Return of the Jedi, like it was 1985. So he came, to involve Neil Scanlon. Neil won his Oscar for Babe way back when, and he's got a very long tradition in practical effects. And they really wanted to make a Star Wars film that felt like one of the old Star Wars movies, which is great for us because it's a big swing back. But what's nice now is we've got all of the modern tools in the box as well as the old-fashioned ones. And some of those old techniques are pretty much the same as they were back then. So they're still using foam latex, you know, they're still using animatronics, there's still some cable work being done. But now, as in with me with BB-8, they just digitally remove me from the movie. So I'm in all the scenes, well not all the scenes, there are animatronic versions of it, but all the scenes I'm in, they just go, yeah, get rid of him. And then BB-8's just rolling around on his own. So it's lovely to have that come back around, and I think a lot of modern movies have just gone, oh, that does work, doesn't it?
So we're talking about kind of a move back to the Jim Henson, Frank Oz.
Yeah, there's
era.
definitely a move back, but also we've got those other tools now that mean you don't have to hide everybody, because you can just get rid of them later. You can have people's heads sticking out of the tops of suits, and then you just go in afterwards and take it out. So you've got now the best of both worlds, and I think there's a lot more of that going on, and I think people are realising there was a huge push with CG, and everybody was trying to see what they could do next. It happened in the stunt world as well, didn't it?
Oh, yeah,
a lot
massively.
of visual stunts. And then everybody, the audiences changed. They went, we know you're not doing this for real. It's not exciting.
They kind of get bored of it. From my point of view, you see things like, you know, excuse me, people love it, the Spider-Man and the Avengers and this sort of stuff, and you see a lot of people now, as soon as it goes into the CGI element, people kind of switch off. They kind of go, oh yeah. But with going back to, like, when they went back to the original for Bond, which was Casino Royale, Gary Powell put, you know, proper stunt sequences together, everybody went, this is great, this is real, it looks real, because it doesn't matter how good the CGI is, the human eye will be able to spot it. They'll be able to spot it, and they'll go, yeah, there's something not right here. Don't get me wrong, it's getting better, and what Brian and the guys are doing is incredible, you know, because you kind of see, well, was that a creature, or was that a CGI, was that somebody in a costume? It is getting better, but the human eye will still go, there's something not right with it, something not quite right with it.
I'm blending the two now, you know, with practical effects and CGI, because the CGI is great. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I love that stuff. But when you mix them up together and you trick the audience into not knowing which you're using, then that's when it really works. That's film magic.
Yeah.
Star Wars has always been pioneering filmmaking throughout from 1977. What was pioneering with Force Awakens and Rogue One? Is there anything changed that would move forward filmmaking that you created?
That's a very good question.
It was the face recognition, wasn't it?
Yeah, the face recognition,
I think that's an amazing.
face
jump.
replacement.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think it has to start somewhere, and I think for what was shown on, I think it was beautifully done, and I think masterfully as well. I mean, I know that some people had. It was like, come on, we're going to a galaxy far, far away. There's creatures with 10 eyes and 4 legs. Like we're invested in this, and I think they've taken this Tarkin and Leia, and I think they made a massive leap, and it has to start somewhere. And I think they're the people to bring that forward and to lead that path. I think it was beautifully done.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I think it was fantastic.
Take me out.
With BB-8, you mentioned how you created the emotions for him. What was the design process kind of for that?
The design process for BB-8 was JJ pretty much drew it on a napkin, honestly. And there's this little drawing around, you can find it on the internet. And then that went to a chap called Christian Altman at ILM, and he took it to a certain stage. And then it came over to London, a guy called Jake Blunt. He finished it off and made it look exactly. It was well on the way, and then Jake did it. And then a chap called Josh Lee looked it up and down, and they went, how can you make that practically? Because they might have done it digitally. JJ really wanted to do a practical puppet on set so people could react to it. So then Josh Lee built me a puppet about this big, and I went away and did a couple of little character studies with it, and JJ liked it. And so then Josh started working out different ways of doing it, and then Matt Denton, who's an animatronics engineer and designer and programmer, a very, very clever guy, they both got together and started building different versions of it. So it evolved over a period of about, I would say, 8 months, probably longer than that, because I only can really speak of it at the point I first saw it. You know, it was going on for a long time before that as well. And then it just kept evolving. The Scanlan was evolved. JJ would come and look at different ways the face would be configured and that kind of thing. And then eventually, right at the wire, JJ saw the finished article. I think that was about 2 weeks before it went into a box to go to Abu Dhabi. So it was it was a tight old thing, and luckily they loved it. So that was good. But it went through a lot of people on a lot of different stages.
And was it hard to make, because it's an inanimate object, it doesn't have a face or anything
Mm-hmm.
as such as you can't, like, not a human face, was it hard to create the emotion for the character?
What's nice about the design is because the head has got pitch and roll and yaw on it, you can cock the head and you can dip the head to make it look sad. And myself and Dave Chapman played with that for about a fortnight. And we saw it on a bench quite a lot, so you never realised how small BB-8 is until you put him on the floor. And I looked down at him and thought, well, he looks like a little dog because he's about this high, he's about knee high. So I tried to put a little bit of dog into him, if you will, and he's like a little toddler who was going to get what he wants. So he's quite tenacious in that respect. So once you sort of started working the personality, a lot of it's in the script too. I mean, he's very well written. So working with that, and then you take different versions of the droid and just go, well, what works, what does it do well, what doesn't it do so well, and the stuff it didn't do so well we didn't do, or we got a different version of it to do, like going downstairs. We didn't ever think we'd have to do that, and that shot when he comes down the stairs after Ray, that's a practical shot, and we worked that out on the day, and we decided it was like a baby coming down on its bottom. You know, when the kids come downstairs, they bum shuffle down. And if you look, he doesn't like stairs. He looks down and he just kind of rolls his bum down, and then he looks down at the next one and rolls it down. They were supposed to, they said they never had to do it, and then we did. Then Jerry Coughlin, the second, said, "Oh, could you just do 3 or 4 of these?" And then we shot this thing about 10 times. There were 15 stairs in that. And he said, "Can you just go to the top?" And I was like, "Oh." We did it a few times. It got kind of sweaty that day. But yeah, we'd find. You can find certain looks just by moving the head slightly or dipping the head, you know, and just rolling it backwards and forwards when he gets nervous or sad or whatever. So you just find that stuff. It's a bit of a joy really, because you can play with it quite a lot.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh,
How is it like to
be on Star Wars?
be on a Star Wars?
Yeah, it's a thrill ride. It's something you'll never forget. You know that you'll always remember it, and you'll always be talking about it for years to come. So you have to make sure that what you're doing on the day is good, because you think if this is bad, it's going to live with me for years and years.
Everybody's going to see it. Yeah.
I've always done theatre, and I'd never been on a set before. And the first time I stepped onto a set was in Abu Dhabi for Star Wars. I remember looking over at my friend, and I just went, "I've peaked." That's it. Like, where else do you go from there?
I don't think there's a day that goes by when I'm on Star Wars with all of these gentlemen and many, many more that I often have to stand there and just think to myself and pinch myself, because it is truly delightful. Everybody, the attention to detail, what's there on set, and obviously I'm a big part of the creatures, so normally when I'm up filming there's a lot of creatures around, but when you're stood there looking around, you sort of, yeah, it's a dream. It is a true dream that has come true every day.
Yes, it's very exciting.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. You know, at the end of the day, you're having fun. For me, the side of it of having fun and everybody being safe at the end of the day, and creating a bit of a spectacle for you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.